my YouTube channel. My name is Naomi Schultz. You can also find me at theschultznest over on Instagram. But today we're going to be talking about, would you stand for Christ even if your life depended on it? I have gotten this word from God, and I fell asleep for the past couple of nights just pondering this thought of, would you really die for Christ even if your life depended on it? And would you stand for him even if someone had a gun at your head or a knife at your throat? Would you stand for Christ? Is your faith that firm? So we're gonna get into it, so just keep watching. I woke up this morning and God totally gave me this scripture, and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. And it is Daniel 3, and it's talking about King Nebuchadnezzar. And during this time, people were worshiping idols. They had gold statues, and they were making these gods and idols to worship on their own. And King Nebuchadnezzar was like, I'm gonna make my God, and you all are going to worship him, and I'm going to command you to bow down to this God. And this God and this statue was, it says, 90 feet tall and 90 feet wide, and it was made of pure gold. And he was just standing, picture like a stadium filled, and King Nebuchadnezzar had his statue and his God. And in this stadium there is governors, treasurers, judges, advisors, a whole bunch of people. And these people are throughout the whole province of Babylon. So there is lots of people there. And just picture this stadium filled full of people. And someone says, nations and people of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into the blazing furnace. Guys, this is where I'm like talking about, is King Nebuchadnezzar, he had control. He probably put fear into people's minds. He had reign over these people, and they would do what the king said. And he told them, you must bow down to my God, this God that is a statue that I made. And you must bow down in sync with everyone. Once you hear this music, when you hear the trump, the seer, the lyres, all these trumpets, you must fall down in sync, all of you. And if you don't, you're going to be thrown into the blazing furnace. And so what happens next is these horns and trumpets all go off, and everyone goes down. Everyone bows and praises and worships this false god that King Nebuchadnezzar made. Then, this is where I really want to point my attention. There was 3 people who didn't bow down out of this whole, we'll say stadium. It doesn't say stadium in scripture, but I'm just trying to draw an image. So out of this whole stadium where King Nebuchadnezzar is telling people that they must fall down, that they must do this, and only 3 people did not, and that is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they stand up and they're like, we're not going to worship this God. This is not our God that we are going to worship, and we are not going to bow down to anything but our God. This just made King Nebuchadnezzar so mad. He was frustrated, he was infuriated, and he's like, "This, I'm the king, and you're going to do what I say because I commanded everyone to bow down in sync at the same time after they hear the horns and the trumpets." But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego don't do that. They stand firm. How intimidating can that be when you're in a stadium filled with high-end people and governors and treasurers and advisors, and even in front of the king? How intimidating is it to just bow down because everyone else is doing it, instead of standing up and looking kind of crazy? Can't imagine like being in that situation and having so much faith like they did to stand up, being able to stand up because they truly have so much faith in their God, to know that no matter what happens, they're gonna be okay. And it goes on to say that King Nebuchadnezzar finds out, and he's like, is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made. Very good. So he's actually giving them a second chance. He's like, I'm going to do this again, and you have this time to fall down and worship my God. And he's like, very good. Like, you're going to do it. I've commanded you. You must do it. But if you do not worship it, you'll be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? So he's telling them that there's going to be a second chance. You can try again. I'm going to throw the horns and the lyres and the zithers and all of those, and you have a second chance to bow down to my God that I made. And he's saying, and if you don't, I'm still going to throw you into the furnace, but here's my second chance. And then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If you throw us into this blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of your gold you have set up. So they're saying that their God, Jesus Christ, can rescue them from the fiery furnace. But even if he does not, we are still not going to bow down to you. We are still not going to worship this false God. Because even if they do die from this circumstance, that King Nebuchadnezzar is going to throw them into the fiery furnace, they are still going to see Jesus' face, and they're going to spend eternity with him for standing up for their faith. So basically, they told the king off. They are literally not going to bow down, no matter what, to this God, this false God. The trumpets and all the music go off, and they still did not bow. Nebuchadnezzar is furious at this point. He feels so disrespected because he commanded them to do this, and he even gave him a second chance. Like, how embarrassing that is. All these people are watching, and he's supposed to have reign and control over these people, and they're still disobeying him. So what does he do? He tells the guards and soldiers to turn up the furnace 7 times hotter than it normally is. And it says in scripture that even the guards who are making this flame very hot and the furnace very hot and turning it up, and the people who actually throw them in the furnace, they died just from the heat. Like, it was so hot. And they bound these 3 men up, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they kept their clothes, their jackets, everything on them. Like, I cannot imagine, like, being tied up to 3 men in all your heavy clothes and then gonna be thrown into a furnace. Like, it's already hot enough, like, just being covered. Oh, I cannot imagine. But the king's command was so urgent, and the furnace was so hot, the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It says in verse 24, the king Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, weren't there 3 men that were tied up and thrown in the fire? They replied, certainly, your majesty. He said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound, unharmed, and the 4th looks like the Son of God. Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out here. Come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. They saw that the fire had not harmed their body, their hair was not singed, their clothes were perfectly, and also, they did not even smell like smoke. Like, I have been around bonfires in my life, and I'm sure you had too, and like, you cannot avoid the smell of smoke. And they were in a burning furnace and did not even smell like smoke. Nothing touched them. It says, then Nebuchadnezzar said, praise to the God of Shadrach. Praise be to the son of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their God. Like, these people survived, and I love how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had so much faith and trust in their God, knowing that even if their God did not come in that furnace and protect them and be there with them, it was still going to be okay, because they trusted that God is still good, and they will spend eternity with God even if they died in that furnace that day. But so with that, I'm also going to tie it into another scripture, and I've already made a video about it, but it was the stoning of Stephen. I'll tag it in the description below if you want to check out that video. But Stephen was a missionary and a deacon, and he was preaching the gospel and sharing the good news, and he was actually stoned for his faith. People were just so irritated at what he was saying. I get all the time questions about, why did God save this person and not this person? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were awesome people, but so is Stephen. So why does God say this person can die, but this person can live? And all that, like, there's so many questions, like, why does God do bad things? But in that previous video that I made happen was, the Jews were so terrified to get stoned again, and there was so much fear in the people that they actually scattered. And when they scattered, they started making their own churches. So the gospel continued to grow, and there was purpose in that. God knew Stephen was an awesome, godly man. It also said that Jesus stood at the right hand of God, and that was the first time ever in the scripture that you will read Jesus standing at the right hand of God. Normally it says sitting at the right hand of God. God was so much sorrow for Stephen that he stood for him. But it had to happen. There was purpose, because the gospel continued to go. These people and the Jews went out and shared the good news with other people, and churches began to grow. And with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you could have been like, well, they could have died in there and they could have met Jesus that day. But King Nebuchadnezzar, he would have been so happy. But with God being them in the fire, and King Nebuchadnezzar saw he's like, wait, wasn't there 3 people? Why is there 4? Like, he saw that. And it goes on to say that King Nebuchadnezzar was like, praise be the God who they worship. He didn't care about the God he made anymore, because once he saw, wow, this God actually protected these 3 men in this fire, and this fire already killed some of my guys for throwing them in. These 3 men were saved. Their hair on their head wasn't singed, their clothes were perfectly intact, and there was no smell on their body. King Nebuchadnezzar had to see that. God had to use that. And God has a purpose. He's not doing things just to be mean to his people. There is purpose in everything. When King Nebuchadnezzar saw that, God was like, hold up, King Nebuchadnezzar. You think you're good for throwing my people in the fire? Here I am, and I'm going to laugh at your face. You think you're powerful? I am more powerful. You think that you are great? I am greater. You think you're so wise and commanding all these people to bow to your God? Well, here I am standing in this furnace with my people. And it turns out King Nebuchadnezzar turned his ways and worshiped Jesus Christ. He's like, praise be to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's God. He started living for Jesus Christ through all that. Like, there's so much purpose, guys. I want you to hear that, and I just want you guys to know that. And then also, in that time, when we are asked to stand up for our faith, are you going to? It might be so intimidating and scary, and you're gonna look absolutely crazy at times. But it is so worth it, because you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's looking, whose life you can change by standing up. Another scripture I want to tie in before I end this is Genesis 6, the Noah's Ark. And during that time, we're so full of anger. They did all things evil. And God regretted making that humanity. It literally says God regretted it. So he found Noah, the most godly person ever, and told him to build an ark. Now, the time that he told Noah to build an ark, it's about 75 years till the flood actually came. So 75 years, that's insane amount of time. And during that 75 years, Noah was telling them, there's a flood coming. You guys got to get ready. And during that time he was building this ark, people probably thought he was crazy, but Noah was warning them that God's wrath is coming, guys. Hurry, like, you guys got to get right, you know? Like, this wrath is coming. A flood's coming. He's going to destroy the earth. You guys got to get on my ship. And no one did. And I also believe that there might have been a few people who believed, but after 20 years gone by, they're like, oh, he still hasn't came. That flood's there's no rain, there's nothing, they're good. So they just kind of got lazy on their faith, didn't take it serious anymore. When it actually started to rain, God shut the ark. There's no more. And these people are like, oh, this is the rain that Noah was talking about. He wasn't crazy after all, but the ark was already shut. There is no more getting on the ark once the rain hits the ground. We should be so prepared. Like, we don't know when the last hour is going to be and when Jesus is going to come, but I don't want you to miss the ark. I don't want the door to shut and you miss your opportunity to come to God and follow Jesus Christ. You are truly following God, you are going to act absolutely crazy to the world because God is not of the world. We're going to look radical and crazy and Jesus freak, and people are going to make fun of us. But we should understand what's in here. Guys, it's so crucial. All that being said, I hope that encouraged you guys. And if you have any questions or comments or testimonies or anything like that, leave them down below. I would love to keep this conversation going, or any prayer requests that you have that I can be praying for you. And you can find me over on the Schultz Nest. I post more faith-based content over there too if you are looking for that. I hope you all have a blessed day and keep seeking after Jesus and stand up for your faith, even if it looks crazy or intimidating at times. It is so worth it. But yeah, bye guys. Peace out.